As we grow older, the rhythm of life shifts in quiet but profound ways. What once felt urgent now feels optional. The noise of social expectations begins to fade, replaced by a deeper appreciation for peace, simplicity, and authenticity. You might notice that some older adults don't visit as often as they used to, not because they care any less, but because their hearts now listen to a different tune, one of stillness and clarity. This video isn't an excuse for isolation, nor a justification for distance. It's a gentle exploration why some elders, perhaps your parents, grandparents, or even you, no longer feel compelled to reach out like before. It's about understanding, not judgment. Through the stories of people like Ivy, Max, Grace, and Owen, we'll uncover the quiet truths behind this change, the evolving priorities, the shift toward emotional balance, and the wisdom that comes with time. You might see a reflection of yourself, or someone you love, along the way. So let's take a walk together into this season of life where less often means more, and silence can be a sign of peace, not absence. Ruby Lane, now in her early 70s, used to host Sunday dinners every single week. Her house was filled with laughter, steaming casseroles, and the hum of conversation. But now, those gatherings are fewer and farther between. Her children sometimes worry, is mom pulling away? But Ruby isn't withdrawing, she's evolving. One of the beautiful revelations that come with age is that friendship, the real kind, doesn't depend on regular appearances. It's not measured in coffee dates or text threads. It's measured in trust, longevity, and mutual understanding. Take her old friend, Nora James. They've known each other for over 40 years. Months may pass without a call, yet when they reconnect, it's as if no time has passed at all. That's not distance. It's depth. It's knowing that love and care don't vanish with silence. As we age, we begin to value the quality of connection over the frequency of contact. We begin to recognize that being physically present is wonderful, but not always necessary. True friendship matures. It becomes less about showing up every week, and more about always being there when it matters most. Ruby says, we don't need constant check-ins to know we're important to each other. We just know. And in this understanding brings freedom. No longer bound by expectations or guilt, older adults can navigate relationships with more grace. There's comfort in knowing you don't have to perform closeness. You simply are close. It's a love without pressure. In today's fast-moving world, where friendships are often mistaken for comment likes or birthday messages, the wisdom of older generations offers something rare, a slower, deeper way of loving people. The kind where silence is safe and presence, even if rare, is powerful. So if your mom or dad hasn't dropped by in a while, it may not be a sign of fading affection. It could be that they've learned something. We're just beginning to grasp that friendship isn't about being seen all the time. It's about being known, and being held in someone's heart, even in the quiet. Max Dalton used to be the kind of person who showed up to every gathering. Birthdays, reunions, even last-minute dinners. He was there. But in his late 60s, something shifted. He started declining invitations more often, not out of bitterness or fatigue, but out of a quiet desire for peace. I realized I didn't want to be around tension anymore, Max said. Not every conversation needs to turn into a debate, and not every reunion needs to reopen old wounds. As people age, their tolerance for unnecessary drama tends to decrease. What once might have been brushed off as family dynamics or playful teasing now feels exhausting, even harmful. Emotional energy becomes a limited resource, and older adults begin to spend it more wisely. This doesn't mean they stop caring. It means they start prioritizing well-being. Grace Rivers, a longtime friend of Max, describes it best. When I was younger, I thought being involved meant being everywhere, in every conversation. Now, I know I don't have to attend every argument I'm invited to. She's not being distant, she's being discerning. This shift can be misunderstood by loved ones. When someone steps back from high-energy gatherings or avoids certain people, others may interpret it as coldness or disinterest. But the truth is often far simpler and gentler. They're choosing serenity. With age comes the understanding that time is precious and peace is priceless. Older adults learn to walk away from environments that drain them, conversations that spiral, and relationships that leave them unsettled. It's not avoidance. It's emotional wisdom. This decision also allows space for healthier connections to flourish. By stepping back from noise, they create room for calm, mutual respect, and kindness. The small, soft conversations become the ones they treasure, moments of genuine connection without tension or performance. For younger generations, this might be hard to grasp. We often feel pressure to show up, keep up, and speak up, sometimes even at the cost of our own well-being. But there's a lesson in the quiet choices of elders like Max and Grace. Choosing peace isn't weakness. It's strength with boundaries. So the next time your father skips a heated family dinner, or your grandmother doesn't call back right away, consider this. Maybe they're not pulling away from you. Maybe they're protecting their peace. And in that choice lies a deep, quiet kind of love, the kind that says, I care too much to burn out. Emma Collins spent much of her younger years surrounded by people. Her calendar was always full: work events, neighborhood barbecues, lunch dates, church meetings. Her circle was wide, her phone constantly buzzing. But now, in her early 70s, her social world looks very different, and she prefers it that way. I used to think being connected meant being busy, Emma says with a gentle smile. No, I know that being connected means seen, really seen, by a few people who matter. As people age, the desire to collect acquaintances fades, replaced by the need for meaningful, intentional relationships. It's not about being less social. It's about being more selective. Older adults begin to recognize the difference between noise and nourishment. This doesn't mean friendships fade out of bitterness. On the contrary, it's a form of respect, for themselves and for others. They no longer feel obligated to maintain every friendship out of tradition or politeness. Instead, they focus on the ones that offer true companionship, understanding, and emotional safety. Take Owen Carter, a longtime friend of Emma's. They meet just once a month for tea, but their conversations are deep, unhurried, and full of laughter. One hour with Owen gives me more joy than a dozen shallow chats ever could, Emma shares. This shift can be puzzling for others. Younger family members might wonder why their elders no longer RSVP to every event or keep up with every social circle. But the truth is, this narrowing of the circle isn't loneliness. It's liberation. Older adults learn that time is no longer something to spend carelessly. They don't want to fill their days with people who leave them drained or unheard. They crave relationships where they can be themselves, without pretense or pressure. Even in the digital age where connection seems endless, many elders choose to disconnect from the noise. They may deactivate social media accounts or stop responding to distant acquaintances. Not because they've given up, but because they've woken up to what truly matters. It's a kind of social clarity that younger generations can learn from, the wisdom to say no to what doesn't feed your soul, and yes to the people who truly get you. So if your grandmother doesn't call every cousin anymore, or your aging uncle stops attending big reunions, try not to take it personally. They may simply be choosing depth over breadth, presence over performance. And in doing so, they're teaching us something beautiful: that the richest relationships aren't the loudest or the most frequent. They're the ones that leave you feeling whole, even after the quietest moments. Liam Hayes used to be the life of the party. Whether it was game night at a neighbor's house or a weekend road trip with old college buddies, he was always on the move. But now, in his 70s, Liam prefers mornings on his porch with a warm cup of tea and evenings by the fireplace with his dog curled at his feet. His favorite place in the world. Home. As people age, the need for stimulation often gives way to a longing for familiarity. The home, once just a place to rest, becomes a sanctuary, not because the outside world is frightening, but because the inside world finally feels complete. There's comfort in the known: the creak in the hallway floor, the way sunlight filters through the same kitchen window every morning, the photos on the wall telling decades of stories. These small details form a rhythm, a sense of grounding that becomes more valuable than novelty. Mia Thompson, a longtime friend of Liam's, says it best: there was a time when I wanted to go everywhere. Now I just want to be where I feel most like myself. This preference can be misunderstood, especially by younger generations who equate adventure with vitality. They might ask, why doesn't Grandpa travel anymore? Or, why does Aunt Mia always decline invitations? But the answer is rarely sadness or fear. It's often contentment. With age, the world outside doesn't lose its beauty, but the world inside gains clarity. Older adults begin to see their home not just as a location, but as an extension of who they are. A place where they don't have to explain themselves. A space filled with the people, objects, and rituals that make them feel whole. This isn't isolation. It's intentional stillness. Of course, it doesn't mean elders no longer enjoy visitors. Quite the opposite. Many cherish visits more deeply than ever before. But instead of seeking stimulation from constant change, they find joy the familiar, the same garden they've tended for years. The family recipes they know by heart. The stories that never get old. And there's something profoundly beautiful in that shift. It's a reminder that adventure doesn't always lie in distance. It can live in depth, in noticing the changing seasons from the same front porch, in rereading a favorite book for the 10th, in simply being still. So if your father no longer wants to travel far, or your grandmother says she's happiest at home, honor that. Know that they haven't given up on the world. They've just found their favorite corner in it. When Chloe Bennett turned 65, she didn't have a sudden revelation. There was no lightning bolt moment, no dramatic change in her day-to-day routine. But gradually she began to feel a subtle shift. The things that once seemed so important, status, schedules, being the loop, started to lose their grip. In their place came a quiet clarity. What matters most now is peace, purpose, and presence. Aging isn't just about the passage of time, it's about the refinement of values. The more years pass, the more we understand what truly deserves our attention. For many older adults, this shift brings freedom. It's like finally taking off a heavy coat you didn't realize you were wearing. Noah Bennett, Chloe's son, used to wonder why his mother didn't push herself to keep up with every social or family obligation like she used to. But over time, he saw it differently. "She's not doing less," he said. "She's just doing what matters." This change can be hard for others to interpret. When elders prioritize solitude, routine, or a smaller social circle, it might seem like they're disengaging. But what's really happening is a deepening. They're turning inward, not out of sadness but from a growing sense of self-awareness. With age, there comes a natural reevaluation. How do I want to spend my time? Who do I want to spend it with? What brings me peace, joy, and meaning? These questions don't always have loud answers. Often, they arrive in whispers. During a quiet morning, a walk in the garden, a pause before responding. And in this reevaluation, many discover they no longer need to explain themselves. They don't need to justify why they skipped a party, stopped volunteering, or chose a slower pace. They simply know this is what feels right now. Fen Walker, a retired schoolteacher, explains it beautifully. There's a season in life where you say yes to everything. Then comes a season where you learn to say no. Not to reject the world, but to say yes to yourself. This wisdom isn't loud or flashy. It often goes unnoticed unless we're paying close attention. But once we recognize it, it's impossible not to admire. So, if someone you love seems less active, or less involved than before, look deeper. What you may be witnessing isn't withdrawal, but alignment. A person stepping into a stage of life where they no longer chase approval, but walk steadily in their truth. And in a world that often rewards hustle and visibility, this quiet confidence is a lesson we all might need. Cole Harrison used to say yes to everyone. A quick lunch with a colleague, a neighbor's BBQ, a last-minute meeting at the community center. He was there. But in his 70s, Cole became more intentional. Not withdrawn, not isolated, just careful with where and how he spent his time. "When I was younger, I didn't think twice," he admits. But now, even a simple conversation can take energy, and I've learned that I want to use that energy wisely. As we age, physical stamina changes, yes. But so does emotional bandwidth. Older adults begin to recognize that not all interactions are created equal. Some nourish, others drain. And the margin for unnecessary depletion gets smaller. Zoe Carter, a lifelong friend of Cole's, shared something similar. "I've learned to stop spreading myself thin. I'd rather have one deep, heartfelt talk with someone who truly sees me than 10 small chats that leave me feeling invisible." This isn't selfishness, it's stewardship of time, energy, and spirit. You might notice your older loved ones choosing certain people more often, or staying longer with fewer companions. That's not a sign of limitation. It's a sign of wisdom. They're choosing conversations that uplift, moments that matter, and spaces that feel emotionally safe. This discernment also reflects a shift in priorities. With years of lived experience, older adults develop a powerful inner compass. They know which relationships are mutual, which environments offer rest rather than tension, and which topics spark joy rather than fatigue. And they're no longer afraid to say no. To some, this may feel like distance. But to those who've experienced it themselves, it feels like coming home. To oneself, it also creates room for authenticity. When energy isn't wasted on keeping up appearances or pleasing everyone, there's more space for honest, vulnerable, soul-nourishing connection. Even a short visit can become deeply meaningful when it's intentional. Emma Collins, whom we met earlier, summed it up with grace. "Still love people. I just love them more quietly now." So if your grandparent seems more selective with their time, or your aging parent politely declines another group dinner, don't assume they're retreating. Consider that they might be reserving their energy, for you perhaps, for moments that are worth their fullest presence. This way of living is not about doing less. It's about choosing more of what matters. And maybe, in this, they're teaching us something profoundly necessary: that our energy is sacred. And the best gift we can offer others isn't our availability. It's our attention, our presence, and our peace. There's a quiet shift that happens as we age. It's not loud or sudden. It moves like a gentle tide, carrying us toward deeper waters of self-awareness, peace, and purpose. Older adults aren't disappearing from our lives. They're simply showing up in new ways. More inwardly, more selectively, more sincerely. They're not retreating, they're refining. Choosing moments that matter over motions that don't. Choosing stillness, not silence. Depth, not distance. Throughout this video, we've walked alongside people like Ruby, Max, Emma, Liam, M. Cole. Each one teaches us something essential, that growing older is not about giving up, but about giving better. Better presence, better boundaries, better love. So the next time someone you love doesn't visit as often, or prefers a phone call to a party, pause before you worry. Ask yourself, what if this is their way of honoring both you and themselves? There's great wisdom in this stage of life. And if we're willing to listen, not just with our ears but with our hearts, we may find a roadmap for how to live more gently, more honestly, and more meaningfully at any age. Because maybe, just maybe, the quiet choices aren't the absence of connection. They're the beginning of a deeper one.